We are back, and we are joined now by Jake Johnston, Senior Research Associate at the Center for Economic and Policy Research in Washington, author of Aid State, Elite Panic, Disaster Capitalism, and the Battle to Control Haiti. Jake, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, we're in the midst of a insane racist moral panic about Haitian people eating cats and dogs, a false like neo-Nazi originated smear about immigrants from Haiti who are living in Ohio, repeated by the former president of the United States on Tuesday on the debate stage, and by his vice presidential candidate, who is the senator from said state. And it seems to be basically originating out of nowhere, but it also is, I think, like a gesture towards past really racist tropes towards Haitian people. If you could just take us through the past 2 weeks or so with this crazy conspiracy theory blowing up.
Yeah, of course. I think you're right. I mean, this is what's happening right now in the last couple of weeks, but it has deep roots, right, in the treatment of Haitians by this country and by other countries, going back really to the founding of the nation of Haiti, right after a successful slave revolt over 200 years ago, and always branded as the savage, the outsider, the problem, right? And I think you can see this and these racist, xenophobic attacks that have come out of Springfield, Ohio, as directly sort of part of that historical lineage. And again, I mean, I think when we look at Springfield, Ohio, and we've been saying this, it's not just these accusations that have been happening in Springfield. There was an individual in Springfield, arrested for hate crimes targeting the Haitian community over the last couple of years. There was an explicitly, avowedly neo-Nazi speaker and march happening in Springfield, Ohio, in the last couple of weeks. And so you can see how this rhetoric, it's easy to sort of cast it aside as, oh, just more crazy rambling from these politicians. But this is serious consequences, right? This is putting people's lives in danger. This is dehumanizing an entire population, not just Haitians, but migrants in general. And that has real repercussions.
I just saw an hour ago, I guess, a report of a family under attack in Ohio, as the in just by, I guess, other people going to their homes and doing, I think maybe it was vandalism as well. Like, this is just putting a target on people's backs, as well as, I should say, the Venezuelan migrants in Colorado. It encourages scholastic, I can never say that word right, but that word, terrorism against people who are immigrants in this country.
Yeah, and I think, there's a number of really important things to point out here, right? I mean, this is the rhetoric, and that's what we're talking about right now, right? These very specific comments, these false comments that have been, spreading like wildfire on social media, and obviously made an appearance in the presidential debate stage, right? But this is about something much broader, and it's not partisan in the sense that it is bipartisan, right? I mean, right now you have immigrant rights groups working with Haitian asylum seekers suing the Biden administration for their racist treatment of Haitian asylum seekers, right? We remember what happened in 2021 in Del Rio. We remember that there's a long historical pattern of racist treatment towards Haitian migrants, right? Going back 50, 60 years. And when we look at today's, the modern carceral immigration detention center, that started as a response to Haitian migration, again, 45 years ago. And I think we're at a key moment right now that helps explain all this, which is it's an election, right? And this is what we've seen the pattern happen over and over and over again, that for political gain, politicians will demonize Haitians. And the sad reality is that policies change because of that, right? We've seen both Republicans and Democrats demonize Haitians and change policies in draconian fashions to target Haitian asylum seekers and Haitian migrants for political gain. Right. And that blows back. That has long-term implications. And so that's the history behind some of what we're seeing today in this rhetoric.
Absolutely. And there's a history, and you go into it, I'm sure, in your book, of this disaster capitalism in the United States consistently intervening, and NGOs associated with the United States having making its footprint felt all over Haiti for kind of like neo-colonial purposes. Marianne Williamson's a crank, but like, this is what she tweeted this morning. I know she did run for president, and she tweeted, continuing to dump on Trump because of the eating cats issue will create blowback on November 5th. Haitian voodoo is in fact real, and to dismiss the story out of hand rather than listen to the citizens of Springfield, Ohio confirms in the minds of many voters the stereotype of Democrats as smug elite jerks who think they're too smart to listen to anyone outside their own silo. This is one of the most insane takes I've ever seen, especially the conclusion she draws from it, but also the fact that, like, she's just repeating the racist trope that we're alluding to there.
Exactly.
And then
That
saying
is
it's
the
real.
roots of this racist trope, right? I mean, that is what's been around for so long. But, I think there is an aspect here, right? I mean, Springfield, Ohio was a manufacturing boomtown. This is the Rust Belt. We've seen decades of economic stagnation, right? Of factories closing up, downtowns closing up. I mean, that phenomenon is real, right? I mean, that anger is real. There was a Gallup study about 15 years ago, 13 years ago, that found Springfield, Ohio as the unhappiest city in America. There are reasons behind that, right? Economic policies pursued by our political leaders, like trade agreements and things of this nature that affected Springfield, Ohio. The reality is that same process is what has decimated rural Haiti, what has destabilized Haiti, and is what pushed Haitians to flee their country to find security here, right? And so the communities that are actually at the heart of this political conflict that we're seeing today, communities in Springfield that have been left behind by their government, and the communities from Haiti that have been left behind by their state, they have more in common, right? That system is what actually needs to be changing and needs to be addressed here. And sadly, that's not the conversation anybody's looking to have. The problem is not migration, right? The problem is everything else that's going on around it, both in Springfield, Ohio, and in Haiti itself.
And can you talk a little bit more about that destabilization in Haiti? I mean, we've been covering the political unrest and upheaval, and the United States having a very heavy hand, and who the president is going to be, and all of that. But in terms of the current conditions that resulted in this program for migrants from Haiti to settle in Springfield, Ohio, legally, by the way, under the federal government's program under the Biden administration. Take us through the conditions that created, the necessity to migrate, and then also, I guess, the program in and of itself, and that it's actually just it's legal.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, first, there's temporary protected status, which is offered to Haitians that have been in the country, and there's also the humanitarian parole program that has been offered that includes Haitians. But I think it's important to note that there's no federal program to fly Haitians up from Haiti and dump them in Springfield, Ohio. And people are moving there because there were job opportunities there, because of word of mouth, right? And a lot of the folks that have actually moved there have been living in the United States for years, right? In other states and where economic opportunities were not as great. And so they decided to move to Springfield, which has in fact had a real economic boom over the last number of years. And employers needed people to work. They needed employees. So people started moving in there. And we look at what's destabilizing Haiti, what the role of the US has been. I mean, this is a story that we could start 200 plus years ago, right? We can talk about the US occupation in the beginning of the 20th century. We can talk about the support for the Duvalier dictatorship, for the massive influx of agricultural products that pushed people off their land in the 80s and 90s. But we don't need to go back that far, right? A lot of people are familiar with the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, decimated the country. And the US and other countries pledged billions of dollars to build back better, right? To strengthen Haitian institutions, to build a sustainable economy. What we did with that money was largely line our own pockets, right? Most of it went to organizations closer to my office here in Washington, D.C. than anybody in Haiti. And the process through how this aid is delivered, how our politicians in the global north, especially in the United States, have intervened to choose Haiti's leaders, has decimated and undermined the Haitian state. The destabilization in Haiti, the cause of the instability so much is this total disconnect between the Haitian state and the Haitian population, right? It is not representative of them. It is not accountable to them. And rather, it is largely accountable to foreign donors, to politicians in the global north, and especially here in Washington. That dynamic is going to have to change for Haiti to have a sustainable future, and for Haitians to not be pushed to flee and to seek security and work in other countries. And I guarantee you, if you ask most of the Haitians in Springfield or elsewhere, they would love to be going back to Haiti. They wish they could go back to Haiti. They still have community ties there. They still have their roots there. But that's simply not an option. And a big part of that is, again, because of U.S. policy. And I want to make another point around the politics of this all, because again, it's been politicians from one party spewing this specific false accusation and the xenophobic rhetoric, but that doesn't exonerate the other party from how they've responded to it. Right? And I think it's really important to push back, not just on the falsity of the comments, but the dehumanization of migrants in general. And that's something that both parties have been a part of for a very long time. Again, as I mentioned, the sort of use of Haitians for political gain and demonization of Haitians for political gain is a bipartisan reality and has been for a very long time.
It's actually, I feel like it's at a fever pitch at this current moment with the Democrats broadly just ceding the ground on the issue of immigration to the right. I mean, the only thing that really Kamala Harris had to say at the debate was to attack Trump for killing the right-wing border bill, and that's effective as a political tactic in terms of saying he's a hypocrite. But what are you offering? Because Obama's the Dreamer program was insufficient, but at the very least, there was still some sort of attempt to be constructive about the issue of immigration. And you're absolutely right that not being more aggressive and forceful in combating the racism here is a direct result of the complete vacuum of policy from the Democrats at this moment.
Exactly. So when we talk about this rhetoric, yeah, it's false rhetoric. It's putting people's lives in danger. That's real and important. It also shifts the policy window, right? It shifts where the rhetoric is around policy. And so you see them tack right on immigration out of political fears, right? The cost of this. And rather than sticking up for what the policies are and the humanity of these people as individuals, right? As human people, it's reprehensible on both sides. And I think, again, we've seen this. Immigration detention centers started in 1980 with an influx of Haitian migrants, right? And Jimmy Carter, fearing the political cost of that, opened up Chrome Detention Center in Miami. It's still going on, right? The housing of Haitians in Guantanamo Bay that were interdicted at sea. That was a deal reached with the Duvalier dictatorship, and again, occurring before an election to try and bury it from public view. You had the Obama administration, which had actually suspended deportations after the 2010 earthquake, restart deportations in the run-up to the 2016 election, because remember at the time there was a big massing of migrants, largely Black migrants on the southern border, and that was the rhetoric du jour at the time, right? And so you see these policy responses, and they are targeting Haitians, and those are going to have long-term implications as well.
Haiti was one of these shithole countries that Trump infamously mentioned. And you can just see the hypocrisy of how the United States had a wholesale policy of letting anybody fleeing Castro, taking their land or other things, and just saying, okay, anybody who's Cuban, we're opening the doors for you, and you can just come here, because it was an it was in the interests of the United States' foreign policy establishment and its anti-communism fixation, versus people in Venezuela, people in other South American countries, people in Haiti who are the victims of the U.S.'s exploitation, as opposed to people who are fleeing somebody who's in opposition to us, right? That is the through line here. And there's no national conversation about how migration, even though migration's a good thing, but migration is the direct result in many ways of our direct destabilization, whether it be, again, putting people that we want in power in Haiti without respecting the democratic will of the people there, and doing coups all over Latin America. That is why we're
pursuing economic development policies that destabilize the country, that push people off their land, right? That undermine the local economy. Well, this is exactly what we saw in Haiti. This is a largely rural economy where people are farming, right? And in the late 80s, right, under the direction of the international community, multilateral dynamics, Haiti slashed its tariffs, opened up the market to imports, and sure enough, U.S. agricultural products flooded into the country, undermined local agricultural producers. And this is not a conspiracy. This is not a wild thing. Bill Clinton himself apologized for the policies that destroyed Haitian agriculture after the 2010 earthquake. These are the roots of the economic instability and economic destabilization of Haiti that people are fleeing from. And yet we don't talk about those root causes. And I just want to mention, you talk about Cuba, and I think this is an excellent point to bring up, because in a lot of ways, this is where the disparate treatment of Haitian migrants really began, was with that policy in 1966, where they labeled asylum seekers from Cuba were political asylum seekers. Mm-hmm. But from Haiti, they were classified as economic refugees. And that does not classify as a legal option for asylum in the United States. And so whereas Cubans fleeing that dictatorship were welcomed with open arms, Haitians fleeing, in fact, much more violent and U.S.-backed dictatorship were turned away, right? And that treatment, right, again, beginning in the 1960s, is a through line to today.
Yeah, well said. And we're getting IMs, which I hadn't even seen, that there have been bomb threats called into Springfield
Just
City
this
Hall
morning.
this morning.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and hearing interviews with the Haitian community in Springfield, right? I mean, they're keeping their kids out of school. They're thinking about moving. That's obviously that's horrible for them individually, but that's also horrible for Springfield, right? Right. I mean, chasing people out of town who have largely been the backbone of an economic revival that has really helped the town, and by all credible accounts, have been a critical part of this town's revival over the last 5+ years. But
Yeah.
it's not in anybody's best interest.
It's absolutely not. We played that segment from local news that has been making the rounds the other day about that boss who was, I mean, he was being quite derisive towards other workers and saying that they were all on drugs, but in a roundabout way was praising the work ethic of Haitian migrants in his facility. And that's because there has been somewhat of an economic revival where there have been regular population decreases in Springfield for quite some time. That's part of what makes immigration a good thing for the country. And it's just such a shame, as you say, that we have the Democrats just not interested at this moment in engaging on the issue whatsoever. Because to be extremely cynical, the reality is there's a lot of people that are wealthy that like using people's immigration status, their insecurity in this country, essentially as leverage over them in the workforce, which is often, with that class of undocumented people, largely impoverished.
Yeah, and let's be really clear too that the current administration has continued deportations to Haiti, even as the country is, experiencing significant levels of violence and political instability, even as the U.S. itself is funding a military intervention in Haiti led by Kenyan police and other countries. The U.S. is still deporting individuals there. They're interdicting migrants at sea and forcibly returning them, and putting up barriers to Haitians left and right. And so, yes, there are Haitians who've come into this country illegally and have status here and have work and contribute to society, right? And there's also a U.S. policy that is trying to shield the reality in Haiti and their role from the public for political gain, right? And that's happening at the same time as well. And so, I think this conversation needs to not just be about condemning the rhetoric that we've seen, but also a call to action, right? This has to be about more than just condemning the rhetoric, but really changing U.S. policy towards Haiti and addressing those root causes that have destabilized the country and contributed to this for so long.
Jake Johnston, Senior Research Associate at the Center for Economic and Policy Research in Washington. You can read his book, Aid State, Elite Panic, Disaster Capitalism, and the Battle to Control Haiti. We will link to your book wherever people are listening to or watching this. Jake, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.